See, in the press, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes if you get a divorce, everyone assumes that it was nasty, and it's just not always.
Angelina Jolie and Billy Bob Thornton's relationship wowed both Hollywood and fans with its passion and risk-taking. From their strong bond to their shocking breakup, their relationship raised a lot of questions. Thornton recently talked about their problems in more detail, which helps us understand their way together better. Then, what really led to their sudden breakup? Keep an eye on this space as we talk about the highs and lows of this amazing love story, the Whirlwind romance. In 1999, Billy Bob Thornton and Angelina Jolie met on the set of the movie Pushing Tin. They hit it off right away. Not just a casual link, it was a real spark that set off something amazing. At the same time that Jolie was getting used to life without British actor Johnny Lee Miller after their split, Thornton was working with actress Laura Dern. Even so, those details didn't seem important once they got together. There was no doubt that they got along well, and it was clear right away that they were pulled to each other in a way that went against the norm. After meeting a year ago, their friendship changed quickly. Their wedding was short and private, and it took place in Las Vegas in May 2000. Their hasty decision to get married showed how deeply they felt. People like Thornton and Jolie didn't tiptoe around love. They went all out with it, starting a relationship that got a lot of attention right away. It used to be a team like no other. Their love story was risky, out of the ordinary, and very personal. It didn't fit the neat boxes of typical Hollywood couples. Thornton and Jolie became famous for the unique ways they showed their love and loyalty in public. They didn't just hold hands at the opening or whisper sweet nothings. Instead, they talked about their deep love in interviews and got tattoos of each other's names. The blood bottles they wore around their necks may have been the most well-known sign of their bond. These tiny chains, each with a drop of blood from the other person, made the city go crazy. Both fans and opponents of this act were fascinated and confused by it. For Thornton and Jolie, it was a very personal sign of their bond. Later, Thornton would say that the bottles weren't as dramatic as people thought. Instead, they were just small, useful reminders of each other that they were apart. Still, this act came to represent their unique and powerful bond. Their friendship was based on mutual respect, even though they showed their love in very public ways. Thornton often said nice things about Jolie's bravery and drive. He admired her dedication to everything she did, from acting to becoming more interested in helping others. On the other hand, Jolie was influenced by Thornton's artistic sense and creative mind. When looked at together, they seemed like a strong pair who were perfect for each other. Being honest about their love made them more appealing. Thornton and Jolie didn't follow the usual rules for lovers in Hollywood. They were always honest and didn't hide behind perfectly trimmed front teeth. Because they were honest, both the journalists and their supporters found them very interesting. So many people wanted their wild, honest approach to love. Still, it had problems below the surface that were just as bright as their light. When you brought them together, their energy finally got too much to handle. At first, they were happy in their own world of passion and feeling, but the problems that came with keeping the relationship going started to wear them down. But what happened after their whirlwind romance? Let's look at how the passion shifted, revealing deeper insecurities and struggles. Thornton's perspective: I wasn't good enough. It's no secret that Billy Bob Thornton is afraid, and those fears played a big role in his marriage to Angelina Jolie. He told her once that he didn't think he was enough for her. This was about a lot more than just how famous they were. Thornton had this belief the whole time they were together because he thought Jolie's energy and way of life were too much for him to handle. It's clear that Jolie had an amazing life. She was beautiful, cared deeply about helping others, and was daring enough to explore the world. On the other hand, Thornton said he was quieter and even said he was afraid of public speaking. He liked being close to his house and out of sight from other people. Thornton thought he was holding her back because of the different ways they dealt with life. Over time, his fears began to weigh heavily on him. In the end, Thornton said that he loved Jolie a lot, but he always felt like he wasn't on the same level as her. He said that Jolie was too big for real life and that she could walk into a room and turn heads. Many people thought they were on the same level, but Thornton felt like she was smarter than him. He didn't hide how he felt like this. Thornton has made it clear that his lack of confidence made their relationship hard. His words were that he chickened out of their marriage because he was having problems in his own life. In fact, he loved Jolie, but his fears made him think he wasn't good enough for her. It's amazing how Thornton has always shown Jolie love and respect, even after they got divorced years ago. They broke up, but he hasn't blamed her. Instead, he's taken responsibility for his problems. People have said that Jolie is a wonderful person who has a lot to give the world. From Thornton's point of view, we can see that personal fears can hurt relationships, even when two people love each other very much. He found it too hard to deal with someone as lively as Jolie. He thought he wasn't good enough for her, which is why they finally decided to break up. Even now, Thornton's thoughts about his marriage to Jolie show how much those fears affected him. Being honest about how he feels gives us a rare look into what it's like to love someone when you don't love yourself. Their contrasting lifestyles began to clash, setting the stage for growing tension. Let's look at how this affected them. Lifestyle differences, a major conflict. Billy Bob Thornton and Angelina Jolie were deeply in love, but their very different lifestyles created an unbridgeable gap between them. Jolie wanted her life to be full of exciting things that happened in the world. She wanted to make a difference, and not just in Hollywood. As her love for humanitarian work grew, it led her to travel to faraway parts of the world to help refugees and deal with important international issues. She was driven by movement, connection, and a goal that went beyond movie sets. On the other hand, Thornton was the exact opposite. He chose to be alone over being in the spotlight and liked the quiet and comfortable. Thornton, who called himself a homebody, was open about having agoraphobia, an anxiety disorder that made him feel uncomfortable in public places or with a lot of people. The thought of always being on the go and going somewhere unknown did not appeal to him at all. These differences in how people lived were big, not small. Because Jolie wanted to do more charity work, she spent a lot of time abroad going to world conferences or visiting refugee camps. But Thornton felt better when he stayed at home and lived a more private life, without having to travel or deal with a lot of people. This difference in goals became the main thing that made them fight. Their different lives sometimes came together. Jolie often had to be in places that were hard on her body and mind for her big projects. Thornton, on the other hand, found it hard to match her excitement and love for things that were very different from what he was interested in. To keep Jolie in her comfort zone and support her dreams at the same time became harder. Their relationship also showed how hard it can be to combine two very different ways of life. Jolie's work helping people around the world was not just a hobby, it was a calling that required constant dedication and sacrifices. Thornton, on the other hand, wanted peace and quiet, because that was part of his personality and mental health needs. Both of their choices were good, but they had a hard time finding something they both agreed on. Thornton said that Jolie's lively personality sometimes made him feel nervous. He liked how driven she was, but he missed being a part of her world. This gap became more obvious as Jolie's work with charity took center stage in her life. She was no longer just an actor, she was becoming a global voice for change. Thornton's slower, more reserved way of life couldn't keep up with Jolie's fast speed. Over time, these differences put more pressure on them, and neither of them was ready to give up their whole way of life. If only Thornton's life were calmer and more reliable, and if only Jolie had a partner who could match her energy and share her thoughts. Even though their lives couldn't have been more different, they loved each other very much. When it came down to it, their different ways of life made the gap between them bigger. It wasn't just about personal tastes, it was about deeply held beliefs and values. Even though they loved each other, their lives were going in very different directions. When they realized this, It set the stage for the problems that would soon end their marriage. Thornton's respect for Jolie remained strong. Now, let's see how Jolie herself viewed their relationship post-split. Breaking point and divorce. When Billy Bob Thornton and Angelina Jolie got married in 2002, their problems were too deep to fix. What began as an exciting and emotional relationship was now under stress because of different needs and issues in their personal lives. The same things that brought them together also drove them apart, even though they loved each other very much. Fears on Thornton's part played a big role in their final split. He told the truth in interviews when he said he didn't feel good enough for Jolie. Even though her desire and authoritative presence were impressive, they only made him doubt himself more. Thornton said that he chickened out, which is what he called his decision to end a relationship that required more from him than he thought he could give. He wasn't able to fit into Jolie's busy, goal-oriented life, not because he didn't love her. It was a very exciting time in Jolie's life. Having her first child, Maddox, and taking on more responsibilities as a mom made her focus more on helping people in need. At this point in her life, she had to travel to some of the worst places on earth, which took a lot of energy and drive. Jolie was no longer just an actress, she was becoming a player in the world of change. Her goals changed, and Thornton had a hard time keeping up, even though she was glad about it. Thornton, on the other hand, found comfort in living a simpler, more lonely life. He was open about having agoraphobia, a fear disorder that made him unable to be in public places. Thornton liked to stay in his comfort zone, but Jolie's busy schedule, which included trips around the world and high-profile responsibilities, made that impossible. Thornton's world got smaller while Jolie's got bigger, putting us apart in a way that neither of us could fix. Their separate lives began to cause them to fight all the time. Jolie's charity work went from being a hobby to an important part of who she is. This meant taking long trips away from home and living in places that were hard on the body and the mind. Thornton, on the other hand, keeps to himself and finds these things hard. The more Jolie focused on her cause around the world, Thornton pulled away from his small world. The situation got worse because Thornton had low self-esteem. He often talked about feeling out of place in Jolie's circle. He didn't seem to be a part of the life she was making. This feeling of not being good enough stopped him from fully accepting her new goals. Jolie, on the other hand, stayed on her path because she knew it was where her heart and calling lay. Over time, it became clear that their life goals were very different from each other. Jolie wanted excitement, meaning, and big changes that would affect everyone. But Thornton wanted a calm, steady life. Even though they had different plans for the future, they loved each other very much. When they said they were getting a divorce, they were both admitting that their marriage was over. Thornton and Jolie agreed to split up amicably because they knew their lives were going in different directions. Even though it was short, their love story was a moving lesson of how hard it is to balance desire, personal growth, and practicality. Post-divorce relationship. It was a surprise that Billy Bob Thornton and Angelina Jolie's relationship stayed strong even after they broke up. Unlike many well-known divorces that end in anger or separation, theirs turned into a lifelong friendship based on love and respect for each other. Especially Thornton, who has always been kind and thankful about Jolie, even after the two of them broke up years ago. His words show that he has a lot of respect for the woman he used to call his wife. He has always thought Jolie was one of the most interesting people he had ever met. He is inspired by her never-ending energy, commitment to good causes, and ability to give everything she does her all. He said these things about her make her different from everyone else. The things Thornton said about Jolie show that he still has a lot of respect for her, both as a past lover and as a person he really values. Being together got a lot of attention, so it wasn't easy for them to be friends after they broke up. Thornton has said that their relationship was often more than just husband and wife. Their relationship stayed strong even after they broke up because they knew each other better. Their closer relationship helped them remember the good things about their time together and go their different ways without any problems. In talks over the years, Jolie has also been nice to Thornton. Both of them seem to agree that even though they loved each other, their marriage couldn't last because they had very different plans for their lives. But they chose to focus on the good memories they had, instead of letting their arguments control the story. They both chose to focus on the good things in life, which helped them stay together instead of getting divorced like most famous people do. There are times when Thornton gets emotional when he talks about his time with Jolie. He has thought about how deeply they loved each other and how they accepted each other's differences, which made their relationship unforgettable. Thornton has said that he doesn't feel bad about what he did. Instead, he sees those moments as important parts of his life and is grateful for them. Their relationship after the divorce shows how important it is to value each other. Many couples in the same situation end up splitting up, but Thornton and Jolie were able to find things they had in common and stay friends. The fact that they could go from being friends to lovers shows how deep their relationship was, going beyond their sexual one. The fact that Thornton still looks up to Jolie says a lot about how close they are. He has said more than once that she inspired him in a way that few others could. Jolie left a lasting impact on his life, whether it was because she was different, strong, or devoted to her beliefs without giving up. Jolie's perspective. Angelina Jolie has always been honest about her past relationships, and her marriage to Billy Bob Thornton is no different. Over the years, she has thought about their time together in an honest and kind way, sometimes focusing on how deep their relationship was and what it taught her. Their breakup wasn't a failure for Jolie. It was a part of her life that helped her learn more about herself and what she wanted out of life. In interviews, Jolie has said that their marriage was shaped by spontaneity and desire. She has talked about Thornton and how she helped her through a tough time in her life. Even though it was short, their relationship was very strong and full of love. Jolie's thoughts sometimes make it clear how important it is to enjoy the highs and lows of loving someone so much. There has been a lot of talk about what caused them to break up between Jolie. They had different values and ways of life, so she knew that their marriage would not last in the long run. Jolie was starting a life of fighting and parenting around the world, while Thornton wanted a quieter, more private life. She understood that these fights weren't about who was at fault, but about two people going in different directions. The things she said about the breakup show a lot of insight. Jolie has said that the end of their marriage wasn't because they didn't love or respect each other, but because they realized that their life goals were no longer aligned. There were no bad feelings between the two of them when they decided to go their separate ways, as she has said many times. Jolie's words are also about how much she respects Thornton as a person. She has praised his creativity, skill, and unique point of view for coming into her life. She has never said anything bad about him. Instead, she has chosen to remember the good times they had together, even though their paths have since crossed. Adopting her boy Maddox was a big change for Jolie in her later marriage. As she began to focus more on her charitable work and being a mother, it was a time of growth and change for her. Jolie has said that their relationship ended because of this shift in goals, which showed that they had different plans for the future. When she looks back, Jolie has shown such amazing grace and wisdom. She does not think of her time with Thornton as a mistake, but as an important part of her trip. Her ability to think so positively about the relationship shows a lot about who she is and how much she admires Thornton. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more engaging content. Click on the next video popping up to dive into another fascinating story. See you next time.